welcome to Something Like That with Nav. Hello, how you doing? How you feeling? Yes, it's been a while since I recorded my episode. The last one was about, say, 3 weeks ago. Not because I'm lazy, it's just because finding the right time, the right guest, and my lucky stars, I have found the perfect guy to come on board for this particular episode. Been wanting to chat with him for a very, very long time because I've loved his work. Especially, I'm a fanboy of his band since the early 2000s. He has been rocking it. He and his band has been rocking it. And then I've discovered that, hey, he wears many hats. Not only as a musician, he's also a mixing engineer, a producer, and the founder and also the owner of Studio 2105. He is none other than JD Wong. JD, my man.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much, Dad, for having me on your show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the show, man. It's a big deal. It's a huge deal for me to have you on the show because I've been a
Oh man,
fan of Pop Shove It for a very long time since you first came out. Come on, man, you guys rocked the scene. The first rap rock band. I don't know whether it's the first, but the rap rock band of in the industry, man. So chatting with
yeah.
one of the members is a big deal for me. Huge deal for
Uh,
me, actually.
yep. I can say that we're not the first, but probably the one that sort of kind of got the most attention, so to speak, yeah, from the media. Yeah,
Yeah, come to think of it, it's like because the thing is, when it comes to rap rock, the only name that comes to my mind, or back then, it was you guys. It's like everybody did it, but not really there fully. But you guys took it to a whole new level, man. The tourings, the music, the collabs, the awards. It's like whoa, fanboy moment, I must say. This is a fanboy moment for me.
oh man, I mean, I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. I still feel I have that imposter syndrome, even though after all this while, and it's been like 20 plus years already, and yeah, sometimes a lot of these memories are very, very fresh in my mind, and it feels like it's weird, man. There's no reason. I feel like there's no reason I am here where I'm here today, and I suppose I have to be very, very thankful for the circumstances and how life and how the stars have aligned, to position me to where I am today.
Because the best part is, but I mean, being having the name Pop Shove It or the band Pop Shove It, it was, I mean, originated, I mean, started off somewhere in 2001, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's right.
And fast forward 22 years later or 21 years later, you still have that name being heard everywhere. So that's a long journey, man. More than 2 decades, and it's still rocking it. So it's a huge deal because a lot of bands that started off during that period of time kind of phased off, or rather, they're still there, but still they don't have that impact that you guys have till today. Because guess I mean, you guys are going to be rocking it and rock the world, upcoming rock the world, and you've been busy with your project EAR. I mean, you had some music released through that, so that's the best part. It was the consistency, or rather the coming up with more music, staying relevant to the scene. That's a huge deal altogether, man.
Yeah, it has not been easy. It's definitely been a great challenge. I mean, to be honest, actually, our last full length album as Pop Shove It was actually 2011.
Wow.
That's 11 years ago. So after that, we've been putting out, a couple of stuff, a few singles here and there we've dropped, and obviously we have a Project EAR stuff as well that has 2 albums worth of material. But yeah, personally, we have find it hard as well to try to keep things try to be relevant like in this day and age. And well, long story short, here we're still trying it. We're still hustling. We're still working hard. We're still trying our best to put out new material. A lot of our stuff is not really radio friendly because for us we write stuff mainly, I guess, for our core fans and for
True.
ourselves. First of all, we don't ever try to target and say, oh, this one is for the market lah. Oh, we write this because we want to hit the this particular trend, or that particular trend. I think first and foremost we always want to stay true to ourselves and write
True.
and put out material that we love and we enjoy, right, performing lah.
Actually, now
Yeah.
even now, if you don't have radio-friendly materials, it's okay because in comparison, when you guys first started and now you have various platforms to cater for the music, so you don't really need to rely solely on radio and TV. All these other platforms will give you the boost. Actually, it's much better. Come to think of it, imagine at one era you only can come up with music that's mainly catered for radio. Right now, you don't have to worry about what you say or how you say it, and even if you go on these platforms, you have a specific genre of people, or rather people who listen to a specific genre. You can cater for that kind of niche market. So I think it's nice to have that right now, right?
Yep, I definitely agree you 100%, Definitely with what the internet has brought, with what social media has brought us, the gatekeepers are okay. We can it's a whole thing that we can dive into. So,
Yeah,
we don't have to rely on the same old gatekeepers, lah, right? Meaning the major labels and all that.
yeah,
So there is an audience for everyone out there. Your stage now for any artist or any band is no longer, yes, it's no longer your local scene anymore. It's the world, man. The world is
it's the
literally
world.
your stage now. Yeah,
Exactly. Even
yeah,
even that, even in
yeah.
that, when it comes to creating your music or your shows, you have to start looking at it at that way. No longer focusing on it's like, hey, the Malaysian audience, this is what they want. I think you have to step up
Mhm.
the game. A lot of people need to focus on that to stop thinking locally, just focus internationally.
Yeah, I think it's a very often used and oft quoted phrase, lah. Think global, act local.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true, true.
yeah,
That's the way you want to put
yeah,
it. Wow,
yeah.
that's a lot of to chat about Pop Shavit, which I will be chatting about in a bit from now. But I have to start it off with one particular question. I know this. You might have gotten this a lot. You might have explained this a lot. Even the reason why I'm asking you this is because when I first, or recently, when I found out that about your shows and so on, it was through Darren, and in an honest mistake, he said, "Hey, check this out. JD has a show and all." So I was wondering which JD was this, and then after a while, then he said it was JD Wong. It's like, okay, but I had this thing in running in my head for a second. It's like, all these years of knowing Pop Shavit and your work and stuff, I always wanted to know what was JD all about. What does JD stands for, man?
Oh, okay, right. Well, JD is actually a biblical name, so it's like
Okay.
it's like a Christian name. It's actually short for Jedediah. So if you remember
Okay, okay.
Beverly Hillbillies, Jedediah
Yes, yes, yes,
Clampett,
yes.
you know, and
I'm
I yeah. So it's
okay,
it's like a
okay.
Midwestern, American name, the kind of a Bible Belt kind of a name, lah. Yeah, like
Okay, okay.
Jedediah, Jeremiah, and you got to pronounce it with that little
Nice.
southern
No.
drawl.
Finally, I get that out of my head right now because I've been
Yeah,
cracking. It's like, what is JD all
yeah.
about? I'm surprised you didn't use the name Jedi Wong, man, for
Oh, no,
short.
no, no. Yeah, it is actually spelled Jedi.
Uh
And
huh.
trust me, I've really gotten that right throughout all my childhood, lah. Jedi lah. Hey, Jedi, throughout school years. So, but
Okay.
yeah, but it's yeah, doesn't phase me. It's like it's cool, you know.
Okay.
Well, to be called a Jedi is like okay, yeah, that's all right, man. That's cool.
Nice.
But
Nice. Okay.
eventually shortened it just to JD because it's easier for people to remember lah. Yeah.
Okay. 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 Okay.
Otherwise, it's a long, complicated name.
But I must say that's a very cool
Yeah.
name. It's not like it's not that you hear it all the time. It's like I think I come to think of it, you're the first person I know who has that name on a personal level. That's kind
Yeah.
of nice, man. That's a very nice name.
Yeah.
So, okay, now that's out of the way, I can just move on to the next stuff that's going on. Like I said, apart from music, one of the fascinating things that I've noticed that you are a mixing engineer, producer, and of course the founder of 2105, which I'm guessing when it comes, since we're talking about 2105, I'm guessing that's the name of your studio or the business or where is it located, right?
Oh, it's the
2105?
name of it. It's interesting you say it because it's actually you are correct on all those points. It is the name of the
Okay.
business, and it was the name of where I was located when I first started out. And
Okay.
there is actually a very cool story behind why it's called 2105.
Please share it, man. Please. It's, it's,
All
it's
right.
always nice to know the origins of certain things.
Yeah, like Marvel Cinematic Universe, everyone's got their origin story.
Yes,
No doubt.
that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this episode. I got to dig as much as possible from you, man. There's so much of things to get to know about JD and his work. So let's start off with the name itself, 2105.
All right, okay, here goes. I always feel a little weird when I start talking about myself and all of my things because, I always feel a little bit self-conscious, like, a little bit of imposter syndrome. But right, here we go, right? So here's the story. I started out I come from a music production and technology background. That was what I
Okay,
studied. Right, I
okay,
was in a music college here in KL in Malaysia. So one of the things I realized early on was that, hey, to kind of get into this business, right? Is you need to start doing stuff at home lah. You need to start at
okay.
home because in order to get out, it's very hard to get employment in this field. You don't
Hmm.
really get hired. Studios don't really hire. So I realized that there was this need to set up a studio, right?
Okay.
Partially also because I couldn't get any of my damn assignments done, right, at the because there's so many students vying for very very limited studio time. It's like, hey, I got to set up a little home studio lah, right? So I got
Okay.
a small little loan from my parents and then started at home. So I realized like, I kind of need to recoup all this money which I loaned from parents, So then I started advertising my services to start doing some recordings. And I did a lot of underground hip hop actually.
Okay.
For my first couple of years, pretty much 75% of my work was in hip hop.
Okay.
Yeah. And not rock. So I dealt with a lot of underground English acts, Tamil acts, right, and BMX and all that. So one of my main clients, actually my biggest project, which I got really really early on, was Teh Tarik Crew.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ultimate of the
So
Gang.
their second album, right? So it's Ultimate, yeah, Fast, Fictional, Miss Nina, right? Because Teh Tarik Crew and us, Pop Shabit, we share a manager. So,
Okay.
so through their manager, her name's Yanis, right? Who eventually came and managed us as well later on. So she actually recommended, hey, you guys are doing your second album. You're kind of doing it very, very DIY. Why don't you recommend? I recommend doing it at JD's studio, which was literally in my bedroom. So it's my bedroom in my apartment in Bukit Antar Bangsa, Ulu Klang. So literally, every week, for a couple of months, I had all the members of Teh Tarik Crew at my home. So all of them have crashed and bunked on my not only my bed but my couch and my sofa. So we spent a lot of time together. So eventually, when the album was done, right, it's time to put out the album. Ultimate actually came and said, "Hey, it's time to put the credits out in the album liner, lah." Right. So what should I put up, JD? Should I just call it JD Studio? And I said like, no lah. It's very pretentious again to call a name a studio after yourself. So I never had a name for it. So I said, I don't know lah. Ultimate. Well, I don't know. I have no idea. So off the cuff, he just said, "Oh, let's just call it 2105
Okay.
because
Okay.
that was my
Okay.
address." It
Ah,
was
that was just that's a simple thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So it was my unit number, my floor, and my unit number. 21st floor, unit number 5. So it ended up in the credits, and the name stuck. So Ultimate was the one who is responsible for naming the studio, for giving the name. Yeah.
Okay. Because I
Mm.
was at the initial stage when I first heard the name 2105, I was thinking, it's like, okay, this is a sound engineer. Maybe there's some technical DB levels or, some graph stuff going on. I wouldn't know anything about that, but, or maybe it's something to do with the movie or exact time when he started. Something to do with time, and now that you mentioned your unit number at the house, that makes more sense, man. That makes
Yep,
more
yep.
sense.
Yeah, everyone has fun trying to guess what the meaning of 2105 is, whether is it my birthday or is it the date where the business was established. But I always enjoy telling that story lah. So shout out to Ultimate, man. It's thanks to him that the name kind of got around and everyone started calling it that. And then I guess that's the name then. Yeah.
That's nice. It's kind of nice. It's a nice name. Like I can remember from, I mean, from my age, like Studio 54s and this and that. You have those kind of things now. Studio 2105. It's kind of cool, man.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
a very
Yeah.
cool name.
Studio 54 references.
Ah,
Yeah.
and speaking of studios, well, of course, it's going to be associated with your mixing and producing. And I've noticed that you have done so much, so many great works with so many great artists. And above it all, you have these two programs highlighting some of the work that you do. You have your own podcast, which for those listening in right now, it's a must check out. It's a compulsory thing you should check out. There's two shows, right? It's actually called under direct access, and then you have one called mix chat, and the other one is mix stream. This is mix stream, right?
That's right. Absolutely
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
So when did
Absolutely.
you have when did you have the idea of starting that out? These two shows. It's a fantastic show. We're going to get into the details of it in a bit from now.
Right. Okay. Well, education audio and music education is something that has always been very, very close to my heart. And people have actually been always been asking me, hey, you should be doing workshops, you should be teaching classes, you should be doing master classes and all that sort. And of course, right, being a pro in a that's where the pro in procrastination is, like a professional
Yeah.
procrastinator lah. So we've been putting that on hold for so many years, but eventually in 2017 and 2018, I actually started doing an actual physical on ground workshop. It started off as
Okay.
that. So it was a workshop which I would hold only once a year, right? Only
Okay.
once a year, but it's a very intensive workshop. It's like a 6 weekend workshop kind of thing. So that was called direct access, right? The direct access workshop. You know, a confession. I actually stole the name from another producer over in the US who did something similar. So the idea is not original. Okay, it's something which I copied, but no one really did that. So it's a hands-on thing where people actually come to my studio, and I handpick a band, an original and independent band, and I would record their song from the ground up, from scratch, right? And the students would actually attend it and actually watch it. So that's what the whole idea, the whole concept of how I do all mixed stream, right?
Okay.
Sort of comes into play. It's always I always want to put the student or the viewer, make them feel like they are right there and then behind the scenes or over the shoulder watching how it's done in a professional studio. Yeah, so obviously 2020 came around, right? Everything is shut down, right? And we know the
That
story.
was
We don't have to tell that again.
the big
Everyone,
mess.
the big mess, right? We call it the Bawasan 2020 lah. Right? That was what happened lah. Okay,
Oh,
right?
man.
Big mess for many reasons. So yeah, so it came a point where, hey, got to get off my ass, got to do something. Work fortunately was still coming in, right? Recording studios kind of fall under the broadcast umbrella of broadcast facilities. So I was still able to do work in here, but of course, getting people into the studio was a problem. So I thought of, hey, why don't we start featuring and showcasing this process of mixing songs, right? I'll take an independent band, local band. One or two actually have been major label stuff as well, right?
Okay.
Mostly Malaysian, but some foreign. I've done for bands in the Philippines, and the furthest one I've done was actually a band from China as well, right? So I give them a little glimpse behind the scenes look at the process, at the mixing process of a song. So from
Okay.
start to finish. So hopefully when viewers, right, of course my niche audience will be people who are into this, who are into recording, mixing, music production. So people who actively want to seek out. But if so happens they are fans of the bands, they're fans of the acts or the artists, or people who are general members of the public who just stumble upon the live stream or the video, hopefully it gives them a glance lah, right? To, oh, so actually the stuff that we hear on radio, that we hear on Spotify, that we see on the YouTube video, wow, There's so much that goes into making that final product. We don't know, you see?
Exactly
Yeah.
how I felt when I watched it 2 days ago when you were doing Sam's music. Okay, I'll confess. The very first time I heard about you doing this particular mix stream was when you were doing it for An Honest Mistake, one of the tracks. So Darren said, "Hey, check this out." You were sharing it on the social media. I saw. Okay, the first 5 minutes, I thought to myself that, "Hey, I wouldn't know anything. Maybe this is meant for people in the technical level." Then, after fast forward to a while later. Was it day before yesterday, right? I think so. Okay, a couple of days back, I was watching you do the Sam. So I said, okay, fine. I'm going to sit down. I'm just going to watch at least for 10 minutes minimum. 10 minutes went on to 50, to half an hour. Half an hour went on to 1 hour. I think I actually sat down there for 2 hours without knowing anything about the technical side of it. But I was so fascinated of what happens to a song and the work that an engineer puts in order to make something as simple into something extraordinary. That's how the whole thing works. The details of it, every small details. No wonder you guys charge that much, and you deserve it, man. That's all I can say. Because the stuff that I think it's something that everybody should watch at least once. I mean, for a common public, for a music listener who's not into the technical side, you don't make music or you don't do audio engineering, in order for you to appreciate a song more, it's good to watch and find out what exactly happens to a song. It's not just somebody just recording it and releasing it. There's a lot of magic that works behind the scenes. And what I saw the other day was mind blowing, man. I never knew so much of work was put in for one particular song, which is only about 3 minutes. But, dude, it was wow. That's all I can say. Wow, man.
Yeah, I mean, appreciate it, man. Thanks. I mean, that's really good to know that you actually found it enjoyable and fascinating, right? Because this type of content is, by definition, it's not for everyone. All right, it's
Yes.
definitely very very niche. But my goal always, especially when I want to feature all these independent acts that I'm working with, some are actually really well known, like bands, of course, like Darren's and Honest Mistake. Some well-known bands also were like a Six Sense, right? Six Sense is also a very very big band, and I'm very gracious, especially when especially those with big followers, big fan base, allow me to feature their songs, because actually it helps. My whole intention is to feature and showcase their music, so that even their fans especially will learn to appreciate their the artists, right, and support them even more, because then they will see, oh wow, this is so much work that's being put into my favorite band. Oh, this is what they do, and this is only a little slice of what takes place, because
Yeah.
it's only the mixing process. Yeah.
Exactly, and I'm also curious about this one, especially for musicians who send you the music, or people who just record music. I feel that it's a compulsory thing for them to also watch programs as such in order to understand better and the processing of the troubles or the difficulties of and an engineer face when you send them a song. So, which comes up to my next question: when you do these sorts of mixing, do the musician or the artist sit with you in the studio and watch the whole process, or is this like, hey Jenny, I got a song, please do the mixing, and then that's it? They don't look at it at all. Does that happen that way?
Right. Well, okay, the things have evolved over the years, lah, right? But most of the time, traditionally, actually, you, the client or the artist doesn't really attend the mixing sessions anymore, right? So even in the past, even before doing this live stream, I would say that the tendency now, especially with everything going to digital, because everything is done inside the computer, in the box, lah, so to speak. Um, the tendency is that usually they don't, right?
Okay.
The only stage where you get the artists or the client's involvement, it's towards the later stage. Once that mix is done, then
Okay.
we will usually do what we call a listening session, right? Either in person. In person is great, because
Okay.
I actually prefer in person. There are several reasons, tips of the secrets of the trade why I actually prefer it in person, lah, right? right, where they
Okay.
actually come to the studio. But very often now, right, people are so busy, people are always on the move. It's not possible to always get everyone to come in the studio. So it's very common now to just send out a file, usually an MP3, and people, the bands or the artists will send notes. Then we'll go back and
Okay.
forth. Yeah, that's one way of doing it, but something that's a little bit more interactive, the best of both worlds, and this is much more recent technological development, is that we work remotely. So
Okay. Yeah.
imagine the live stream that you watched, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now we can actually do it in real time with the artist, with the client, wherever they are, and the quality, we actually use a different program. We don't obviously not don't stream it on YouTube. We actually
Okay.
use Zoom and another program called Audio Movers. So that
Okay.
actually transmits the audio in almost near real time and in full quality. Yeah,
Oh, okay,
so
okay,
that's actually
okay.
been a recent development, of course, right? In no thanks in part to the pandemic, right? No thanks in part to that. So that has accelerated the adoption of that lah. So that's been some of the ways that I've been working. In fact, after this, I'm gonna be doing a remote session with a client who's all the way in Malacca right now.
Okay.
Yeah, because of timing lah, timing
Mm-hmm.
schedules. Yeah, so we make use of technology. So that's how the sort of relationship and the work process has evolved over the years.
But as an engineer, would you prefer it for the musician of if you kind of have the whole band, at least a representative from the band itself, come and sit with you and watch the whole process? Because I don't know, I'm like I said, I'm not a musician. I do not know anything about music, and the only thing I know how to play is
Mhm.
a CD player. So you know, so when you have
Yeah.
the musician there and to understand better of the process itself, so just to make sure in the near future when they're recording a song, they know things to look for, I mean, things to do and what not to do before sending a music to an engineer or in the recording process of it. Would you prefer that, or you want to say that, hey, don't disturb me while I work? Which one is it for you?
I would say actually it's I really don't mind either,
Okay.
but to to be frank, it's really not very productive for the artist or the client to be around while I'm mixing actually,
Okay.
because it's the first 80% of the whole process. It's gonna be me figuring out different combinations, different balances here and there, and everything is going to sound wrong and sound off. And
Okay.
for a client or a musician who's sitting at the back of the room listening, everything's going to sound wrong, because
Okay.
I'm heading all these down different pathways. Sometimes I hit a
Okay.
dead end, then I have to backtrack, go another way, and so I'm discovering all these different ways to work and get the mix together. So usually, that's why they only come in at the very close to the end stage, where we
Okay.
decide, okay, this is the right sonic direction, and then we will make tweaks and we will make notes from there lah, from there on. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
so it's to me personally, right, it's not really productive to have them back there. I think there is a joke, there's a meme that goes around, right, that says that, okay, it's something that creatives used to do lah, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Like okay, I do the work, I mix, and then I deliver to you. I charge, let's say, 500 ringgit, for example, 1,000. I mix, but you supervise and you give me all your notes. Then right, I will charge you 1,000.
Oh,
Then
I get it.
then okay,
I think
you
I saw
sit
this
down.
meme.
Yeah, yeah. Then you sit down here. You do the mix yourself. I charge you 2,000. I'm
This happens a lot
exaggerating.
with graphic designers, man.
Yeah, but it's the same. But the same parallel also applies to us here.
Okay.
So yeah, obviously they're going to find a lot of faults. A lot of things are going to sound wrong, and things only kind of gel together towards the end. Then where
Okay.
everything just will just fall into place and make sense. So it doesn't really serve any purpose for them to be sitting lah. But I
Okay.
won't say no if they want to do it purely out of for their own education.
Yeah.
Then
At least
yeah,
once.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that. But hey, in this day and age, man, who's got the time to
Yeah, you gotta
who's
make
got the
time,
time?
man. You
Yeah.
need the knowledge. You got to make time because, like I said earlier, for a person who is not into the music scene,
Yeah.
or rather who's not a musician whatsoever, an engineer whatsoever, I was so intrigued about the every single detail that you did. It's like
Mhm.
you're getting on this plugins, certain part of music where how
Yep.
you work with the vocals, the kind of microphones you like,
Mhm.
even explaining to people, musicians, what kind of mic you use also helps in the process of mixing. All those little minute details is like I was like, wow, this is something that all musicians to at least experience
Mhm.
it once in their life
Yep.
when you come up with music, especially the new guys who's
Mhm.
I just play. I got a band. I want to record song. I just record
Yep.
something. Give it to the
Yep.
mixer. Let him crack his head on how
Mhm.
he's going to
Yeah.
work it out.
Yeah. And I wish it was like that. To be honest, I wish it was like that. But for people who are, who say that they're actually invested in music lah. They're
Okay.
musicians. They play in a band, and God forbid, even those who are actually say that they love, or are studying music production. I would have to say that they actually kind of take these sort of things for granted nowadays. You know, I used to be mentored under Greg Henderson,
Oh,
who's
okay.
an awesome producer and engineer. He's my mentor. Right, he also produced our albums, and there was something that he said. Working in a studio used to be a privilege. I mean, back in the early days of recording studios, you had to have minimum an electronics engineering degree or something like that. And even if you go back to, even let's say, Abbey Road UK days, the engineers are wearing coats and lab coats, right, to show that, hey, these are professional people.
Yeah.
And it used to be that if you had no business coming in the studio, right, you are not allowed lah, right.
Sure.
But nowadays, every Tom, Dick, and Harry can sort of step into a studio, come in. You invite your girlfriends, your uncle, your auntie.
It became a
Whole
lifestyle thingy, lah.
it became that, and then obviously with the proliferation of home recording and home studios, then it became a lot more accessible. Then people sort of take it for granted. It's so
Hmm.
much so that you mentioned that you are so fascinated about all this. You're intrigued by the process, by all the technical stuff and details. Likewise, there are I and most of the colleagues that I know would give everything that they could to be the first one in the studio, last one out. That's We always wanted to be that. You see, that was my experience growing up, and training and learning, right, at the different studios and places that I used to work and train under. I always want to be there, first thing in
True.
the morning, and then I want to be the last person out. Nowadays it's different, man. And sad to say, right, I do take a lot of interns. It's like they just want to spend the minimum amount of time. It's
Oh
like,
man.
as soon as I can leave, you say, okay, you good to go, session's over. They
Oof.
leave. Poof. Yeah.
Oh.
It's like, oh, gotta go off and do some other thing now. Gotta go
Oh
and
man.
gotta go and check my Instagram feed during a
No, it,
session. Yeah.
this because this whatever whatever you guys are doing, I mean whatever the engineers are doing, it's for me, like I said, it's priceless because knowledge is such, because you can have all the education that you want, I mean academic wise, and the technicalities of things, but the experience of doing it hands on, or rather watching it, it's something that money can't buy. You just got to get the right people, the right studios, the right song, being there at the right time. Wow, that's totally different. I learned that when I had to work with Disney a while back, knowing how exactly the whole thing works. So it's, I don't know, if for the interns, like you said, whoever's listening, future interns, pay attention, experience it, because if you don't experience it, you never learn. Experience is your best teacher. That's what my mentor taught me.
Yeah, I mean, it's of course again the cliche lah. It's always the 10,000 hours cliche, right? Malcolm Gladwell Outliers says 10,000 hours. You got to put in the time, right? And all that. But again, don't get me wrong. There's incredibly talented people, and I think making music production and recording accessible to more people is a good thing. It's definitely a great thing lah. right? But everything always has its pros and cons lah. There's always an upside and always a downside to everything, right? There are still individuals out there who really love the craft, and that's why I look at it. It's a craft who really appreciate the art, and that's great. But there are some, of course, who kind of just give it more of a passing, like a passing glance lah, to the whole thing. So I guess depend. People just need to know where their priorities are and what they want to do, who they want to be. If they really want to be doing this, and again, it's a lesson which I've actually um, sort of hammered in just by talking to all the people on my podcast as well. So all these people, they are all, the common thing that I've spoken to all these amazing people is that how passionate and how obsessed they are with this whole thing, right? So that
Yeah.
almost every waking hour they are in the studio, they are doing things, they are, writing songs, or they are making music. So that's one thing in common with all the successful people that I know lah. They're really obsessed about this thing, about what they love. Yeah,
It's
but
fascinating, dude.
sorry man, pardon my long rant about this, dude.
No. I kind of love listening to this, man. I really love listening to this. No, because the thing is, like I said, I have a whole different level of respect for audio engineers because, like I said earlier, anybody could make a song. Anybody could write a song, produce. I mean, come in, walk into the studio, record it. But to turn a song into a masterpiece, that's where you need all the engineers. It's like I've heard bands when they doing their live sets. I mean, musicians that I've known from the early years till today, when they have live sets going on, live shows, they sound extremely well. So they decide that, okay, fine, I'm going to record this song and then bring it out. So the moment they don't pay attention to who they send the music to, who is mixing the music, by the end product comes out, it just ruined everything. The experience itself is like, dude, I heard him live. I heard his song. I love that song. But if you don't do it right, you don't get it to the right people, you just wasted every your time, your effort, and of course your reputation at the very same time. And also at the very same time, I've known guys who suck at music. The songs really sound really bad, but the moment they get the right engineer and so on, the end product sounded fantastic. It's like, dude, was this the guy who came up with that song? So that's why I have the an extra, or rather, I don't know how, the high respect towards audio engineers, and I love listening to them speak and watching them work. It's like, you don't understand, it's okay, just watch lah. It's like, it's something that you don't get it every day. It makes you feel like, hey, shit,
Right.
I should be a musician myself, man. That
Thanks,
kind of
man. I
thing.
mean, yeah. Where were you? 20 years ago, man? I needed to hear this
Oh, trust
when
me,
I
I've
was
been
young.
preaching this 20 years plus since from the event management days and radio days, because I hung out with a couple of old school engineers, some of them, back in the day. So you don't know what is this all about. So like you said earlier, some people are not allowed in the studios. Not everybody can be in the studio. So I just got a glimpse of here and there. Always fascinated. Wanted to study audio engineering, never worked out, didn't have the money for it. But hey, I have you guys to thank, man. At least I learned bits and pieces here and there. It's CBC
Oh
like
man.
1%, 0.1% or whatever. I have to thank you for that part. And I've always advised musicians myself, pay attention to these sort of things because you can't take it for granted. It's not about like saving cost. Some of them, I'm pretty sure as an engineer, you've seen musicians who don't have not prepared the budget for coming up to you and making this kind of music. So they compromise on that part. At the end of the day, you just wasted a good song.
Hmm.
That has happened a lot for you, right? I mean,
I
seeing
mean,
musicians.
yeah. I mean, it depends on what sort of level of involvement I have in a certain project, right? Because I mean, I own and operate a studio, so sometimes on some jobs, so to speak, right, we are just there to cater a service lah, right?
Okay.
To sort of record your song, record your parts, right? I don't get involved too much on in the production or the creative side of things, right? You've
Okay.
written your song in such a way, right? My job is just to record and mix you. So there's some jobs which are of that nature. But then, of course, right? I will. There are some for some jobs and some projects where I will actually be engaged, and I come on as a producer, right?
Okay.
So then this is where I'll definitely have a lot more invested and a lot more involved in terms of everything. In fact, if I'm hired to produce a song, a song or a band, I'm all in. This is 100%.
Okay.
They are giving the trust and they are giving me basically the mandate to sort of take over and sort of manage the entire project. So this is where I will step in everything from the songwriting, the lyrics, the performance, all the pre-production, all the rehearsals, all the work that needs to take place even before, right, you step into the studio lah, right? And that's kind of my approach. I'm always a very flexible person. I work depending on what the client wants lah, right? It's actually fascinating. I've been listening to your various episodes, but I always nitpick and pick and choose, right? I always cherry
Okay.
pick the episodes because I always want to listen to my other so-called fellow engineers first.
So you're that
So
extra two guys who came in and clicked on my YouTube. La.
oh yeah. So like the most recent one with Ash, that was really really cool. Right, Ash has just got his own philosophy when it comes to picking projects and clients, and that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's a really really good, very very smart strategy actually. Right, in doing so, because he always makes sure he's fully involved with every project that he does. That's excellent. I think one of the old ones you did was with the Madan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as well. Yeah,
Pulse.
so yeah, with Madan. So yeah, we're all all studio owners and engineers. We're all good friends. We all have our own WhatsApp group and everything, and our own chats as well. So it's like super super cool. Yeah. So yeah, that's different people have different philosophies, different ways of working, but I think in the end all of us love what we do, and we always try to make sure that we serve the community, we serve our musicians. I always tell myself, right, that actually this is actually a service industry.
Pretty
as much
much,
as
yeah.
as much as I tell interns and I tell my assistants lah, I tell them, hey, as much as we are think ourselves as wow, these artsy creative people, to be frank, we actually service industry. We perform a service. So, we want to be humble. I don't see myself any greater than someone who's working the cash register or someone who's the janitor who's performing a service for everyone, man. So, you know, yeah, that helps lah to sort of keep me a little bit more sane, a little bit more grounded, so that my head isn't above in the clouds. Yeah.
Yeah,
For
because
mm,
your service is needed very badly, very much actually. Sorry, in the industry, because
mm,
it helps elevate the quality of music that we have in our country. Because, like I said, we spoke earlier, it's time for us to focus internationally and but act locally. It's because the quality itself also plays a very important role. If you want to take it further, you can't do it like what he did about 30 years ago with the limited technology that we had, and things and such. Because
yep.
now, whatever you guys are providing, the services you're providing, all the engineers, all the studios, these are the ones that are going to help us create that reputation worldwide. So it plays a very important role. But I do have one question. Sorry, I'm sidetracking here right here. I'm just supposed to ask you this earlier. You mentioned about the producer's job and then the mixing engineer's job. But this is one thing I'm always confused whenever I see in inlays or credit mentions mix and mastered. So mixing and mastered, the difference in a nutshell. Could you help me out with that part?
Ooh, okay, right. That I will try to keep it as brief as possible, layman's explanation, because the danger is whenever I go into this, it will become like a full-on university lecture.
I got
It's
no
always
problem
a
with
bit,
that, man. Because
yeah,
I'm
I
always
know.
fascinated. Because I'm very
Yeah,
confused. It's like, okay, you said I sent it to the audio
mm,
engineer. I did the mixing. Then
mhm,
there's this mastering thingy.
yeah,
I got to send it to somebody else for mastering. So how
mhm,
does that work? What is the
right.
process with that?
Okay, right. So, right, mixing is it's fairly easily understood, lah, right? You are taking all the recorded tracks, you are taking the arrangement, right? Whatever has
Hmm.
been arranged, whatever has been recorded, right, for that particular song production, and it is a job of combining all those tracks using all the different tools to deliver a final mix. So final mix is actually the actual final representation of what that song is, the production of the song, right? Because the song could have different versions, right? So
Okay.
you could do an acoustic version, or somebody could do a dance version, somebody could do a rock version, so to speak lah. But that's mixing is very easy to understood. You take all the tracks, it's recorded, that's been recorded, it's mixed together to give you the
Okay.
final mix. So
Okay.
mastering is where the sort of mystery and the dark arts used to be lah. We always used to refer to say that mastering used to be some kind of a dark art. But mastering, basically, the definition of mastering is right. It is to take the completed mixes, right, the full mix, to prepare them for, right, let me try and word this as accurately as possible, right. It's the process of preparing or mastering the final mixes in order to be ready for the intended medium of delivery. I know
Okay.
it's
Okay.
still a little bit wordy, I know, but basically it's getting it ready and prepared, right, for whatever the final destination is meant to be, lah, right?
Like broadcast, or it's the streaming
like
platforms, that kind of
like
things.
yeah, correct, like either broadcast or streaming, or in the past, and in fact still now lah, right, physical mediums such as CDs, cassettes, and vinyls. So because all these different mediums will have different requirements, they may have different characteristics and different delivery specifications. So a mastering engineer, by right, is the person who has the most experience. They not only are they usually specialists, right,
Okay.
who only do, right, this very very special and specific job. They also have that ability to look at big picture. They know
Okay.
all the various delivery formats. Oh, if it's meant to deliver for digital streaming, it's this is the specs that we want to look for. If it's meant to be delivered for physical CD or vinyl, these are the things that we will prepare for. And now with immersive audio, Dolby Atmos, and all these emerging formats that are out there, mastering engineers need to up their game and also be ready to deliver for all these formats as well, lah. So that's where a mastering engineer comes in, right? The closest easiest analogy I use to explain to bands and artists is that, right, it's like you go to a car wash lah. It is not a good
Okay.
analogy, okay, but the easiest way to explain to a
Can
layman
do lah.
is go to a car wash, right? You want your car clean, right? You or ask for, okay, boss, I just want to wash and vacuum only. Can, no
Okay.
problem. Once it's done, your car is clean. You can drive it. It's perfectly functionable. But what about how about polish? So right.
Okay.
So the analogy that I try to explain to a layman is this lah. If you have the option and you have the extra budget, I definitely always recommend that. Yeah, send it for mastering engineer. It's the example that I use is that, yeah, it's like having your car polished. It's clean.
Okay.
It's perfectly serviceable. It's perfectly deliverable, but just to polish it, right, to add that little bit of polish so that it's
Booster.
a little bit more presentable. Yeah, to take it to another level. Because a mastering engineer, not only is he or she specialized in doing it, they also have much better equipment to do so. They
Okay.
usually will have a much better acoustic environment in terms of their mastering studio and their mastering rooms. A lot more, much more accurate listening system than what we have. So
Okay.
it's always advisable to always, if you have the budget lah, to send right to a mastering engineer. But sadly, of course, sometimes people, either because they don't have the budget, right? They don't want to. Sometimes they feel like, oh, we're only releasing one song, a single, so not worth it lah to spend that extra, couple of hundred to
Okay.
send to a mastering engineer. So unfortunately, right, for us on our end as mixers, we have to fulfill that need lah. So we
Okay.
sort of have to all kind of do both. A lot of the times have to do both nowadays, mix
Okay.
and also master, right? But
Okay.
Ideally, mastering should always be sent to a dedicated and specialized mastering engineer. That's my
Ah,
that's my opinion. Anyway, yeah.
that says a lot because I've heard conversations among musicians. You know, I've been in one or two studios. It's like, okay, fine, I've done this mixing. I'm going to send it to the other guy for mastering. It's like, dude, isn't it the
Mhm.
same person can do both and all? But I haven't had a detailed explanation as such. I mean,
Right.
in a nutshell, I think I have an idea of
Yeah.
how the whole thing works,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
amazing, man. There's a lot of process
Yeah.
in making a song.
Yeah. Talking about process, let's do this little thought process, like this little mental exercise. Say,
Okay.
like, I am the mixing engineer, right? I have
Hmm.
mixed the tracks, right, in my studio, and I have made it sound the best that it can be to me.
Okay.
How then am I able to make something that sounds the best already and then switch your brain to so-called mastering and try to make it better? You can't, because it's
It's
already
tough.
you've already made you already tried to make it sound the best. The only way you can do it, right, to have someone improve it, is to send it to a mastering engineer, which is a separate person, a third party, who's not invested in the song, in the project, who gives a totally unbiased feedback and opinion
Hmm.
on the whole song, on the mix, and for them to be doing the mastering. That's where the
Okay.
value
Okay.
of a mastering engineer comes into play. Yeah, they all have the much better gear. They're much more experienced. They have the ear for doing that. But you're basically giving it to someone who will give you unbiased feedback and know
Oh,
what
okay.
needs to be done, lah. And actually,
Okay.
one of the great values of working with mastering engineers is this, that I personally have experienced, lah. So with some of the great mastering engineers that I work with, both local and so also overseas, people like Cielto, Nick Lee, and all that. One of the hidden benefits that no one really talks about, right, when you work with mastering engineer is they actually give me feedback. If, let's say, I've worked with them on several projects and they come back to me and say that, hey, JD, in your mixes, you always tend to have, let's say, this 200 hertz build up, in all your mixes, they always kind of appear this way. Or maybe your low frequencies, everything below 50 hertz always tends to be too much or too little. It's like, wow, that's actually great feedback from mastering engineers, because it tells me that, hey, on my side, I have some deficiencies in my studio monitors, the acoustics of my listening environment, and
Okay.
that is valuable feedback, or the tendency, or you know so great mastering engineers actually give that in terms of their value. So it's a feedback loop. So it goes back to me, and then I will make improvements, make some changes, right, to either the project that I'm working on with them, or and keep that in mind for future projects, lah. So they're
Okay.
actually a feedback loop where I learn more. And if it's the same person doing it, there's no feedback loop happening. You cannot
Yeah.
improve.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't
You need
improve.
another new set of ears and eyes to see the work itself in
Yep.
order to have a different perception of it. But this is interesting, man. I seriously now regret not studying audio engineering years ago.
No, no, no,
but
no,
the
no.
thing is,
I think you're on the right path. Like,
come on, man.
if my kids want to study audio and music nowadays, God bless them. I won't stop them, but I will, like, highly discourage them from doing this, lah.
Ah, come on. With the technology that's constantly evolving, I'm pretty sure there's more great methods coming out for that generation, man, in comparison with what it used to be back then.
Uh, well, I mean, there will be a lot of people who will disagree with that statement.
Really?
People who people let's if we just look in just purely in music, within the music circle, um it's very popular now, right, to have automated mastering services,
Oh,
such
really?
as Lander, right? And even, some of the plugins that come in nowadays, like Ozone, use machine learning, artificial intelligence to master. So that's
Oh,
actually been a very common thing really for past couple of years, and it's very cheap. It's very affordable. Some of it is even free as well. If you only want an MP3, I think some of them even do it for free. You upload the file to the website, it will process the thing, and then give it back to you as a mastered MP3 using machine learning and AI.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there are even plugins, that use AI and learning to make mixing decisions for you nowadays, right?
That much?
For beginners. And heck, recently, James Earl Jones, it made headlines, right? Voice of Darth Vader. He
Yeah,
has
the AI
licensed
is
his
taking.
he has licensed his voice, right, for AI to use it. So
Oh,
this is going to be a game changer. And we talk about in art, visual arts. There's a lot of talk about AI art, AI generated art nowadays. Which have you ever tried? Have you ever tried it? It's quite
yeah,
fun.
I've seen. And one of the things that I'm pretty pissed off
Yeah.
is when they have that so-called AI voice generator for voiceovers. I can't cari
Uh-huh.
makan, man. I can't earn a
Yeah.
living. Everybody's going to use that.
So yeah, it's you can at this stage. I safe to say it is still you can still discern. Yeah, it always kind of gets a little flat after a while. Yeah, the
Yeah,
AI ones, because I have gotten some clients, and they usually we will replace them with actual VO talent lah, right?
yeah.
But hey, I mean, there are a lot of technology can be a good thing. It can also disrupt a lot of industries, man. So yeah,
You still
if
got
the
to have that
reality is
human
that.
touch, lah. No matter what you do, it you still got to have that human touch.
Yep, yep. But the Elon Musks of this world may disagree and say that we should let the machines. If the machines can do it better, let the machines do it.
No, come on, man. It was a bit too much of it already.
Mm,
Like I said earlier,
yeah.
from the technology I used to use before we started recording this thing, it's like I used your normal mixer,
Yep.
plug and play. I was so happy using it
Mm,
and all the details. Then I got something which is a bit more on the high tech stuff,
mm,
which
yeah.
is good, but at the same time making my life miserable from time to time. And it's
Uh,
like when you're fully reliant on that. But
yeah.
the thing is, all this stuff is see like you see you have your technologies, there are AIs, doing it for you and so on. But the thing is, like when I said human touch, like you can advise bands on what to do
Mm,
and what not to do. Like say earlier you were talking about a mastering engineer advising you, hey, you have this issues, I mean, you can work on it. I don't think so technology can help you do that. It's like, you give whatever you need to give and they'll
yep.
just fix it and give it back to you. Same goes for you. I mean, for example, like now the problems that you face as an engineer when a musician comes in, I'm pretty sure there's a series of it. What are the most common things that you would like musicians to pay more attention to before sending music in to you for mixing?
Well, I think it's I would call it the five P's of production, lah. Right, the
Okay.
five P's, right. Disclaimer: some people will say there's six P's, but the six P's will be a little bit not family friendly, lah. Okay, right, right. Basically, it's this: prior preparation prevents poor performance.
Okay.
Right. So, it's as simple as doing as much work as possible and preparing as much as possible before you even step into the studio. So that means, perfecting your craft, perfecting your songwriting. I mean, perfecting maybe is not the right word, because it implies that, oh, everything needs to be perfect before you put it out, before you release it. And sometimes perfection can be the enemy of greatness, lah. Right?
Okay.
But then on the other flip side, again, there's always flip side to everything. Okay, you can always say good enough is the enemy of great.
Yeah.
Right?
True. It's
So
never enough, lah.
there's always things to think about. But I guess my best advice always is to always put as much possible effort, right, to your craft before you take it to the next stage, lah. Right? Be it you step into a studio before you step into a recording studio, or before you send your tracks off to a mix engineer, and be prepared to, if things are not up to par, be prepared to, receive feedback lah. Right?
Okay.
Hopefully it's constructive feedback. Obviously, I would always try to be constructive, right? But I everyone needs to be ready to accept that there are levels to everything. Sometimes with how things are marketed and how things are portrayed, right, on social media, and how, especially when it comes to all these audio companies and brands, they always tell you, oh, unlock the possibilities of this, all these nice key phrases, lah. um, yeah, achieve world class results with this. All you need to do is buy this plugin or buy this software, buy this.
Add on.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily always the case lah. Yeah, you are absolutely right. The human element at this point in time still plays a big factor and a big role in anything that's do with creative arts lah. um I think one thing that, like, sorry to circle back into machines again and AI and all that.
No problem. Go ahead.
If there's one thing that it cannot do, that machines can't do, is that they cannot replicate intent.
Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes, maybe for a certain song, right? Let's talk about mixing, right? Maybe it is mixed a certain way. It is mixed to have the vocal very low in the mix, for example, in some styles of music, or
Okay.
it's mixed to be very, very dark. So if you feed that to a machine, they will think that, oh, vocal not loud enough. Oh, they will think that, oh, this
Mm.
music is mixed too dark, right? Not enough bright. It's not bright. Not doesn't have that enough of a treble, the shimmer. Then it applies that processing, but it
Okay.
has totally bypassed and circumvented the intent of the artist and the producer. So
Hmm.
they actually intended it to be this way. If you take, for example, Mona Lisa now, and you feed it to an AI, and say, oh, what will be the perfect picture be, right? There is like, okay, Mona Lisa, here the
Curly
exposure
hair.
not enough lah, or they say, no, even the technical things like, oh, the exposure here is not good, here is not bright enough, and then you run it to some algorithm, they'll be like, whoa, but
Ah,
you have totally ruined a masterpiece, right? Or
can
let's take,
imagine.
for example, yeah, I think there was one example that actually used a Van Gogh Starry Night, right? His famous painting of the Starry Night, and they actually ran it to an AI to. So what the AI does is it tries to sharpen the image, make things a little bit better.
Oh
The
man,
result
this
was like,
this
yeah, but
this
it's
is horrible, man. Because it
yeah.
reminds me of this. This
Mm.
India's. You have this agoris, right? That all that scary looking guys, priests or whatever. They believe
Ah,
in one concept, which is seeking for purity in impurities.
wow, that's
So
deep.
pretty much that's how it is for music. Also, sometimes that so called imperfection is actually perfect in certain ways, man.
Yep, correct. Yeah, so that's where the human still, has the advantage over the machine, lah. Knowing where to leave the imperfections in, where to leave the soul, so to speak. Because if everything is, edited to perfection, everything lies exactly on the grid, everything's perfectly in tune, then we've essentially robbed ourselves of our humanity and our soul and turned ourselves into machines lah. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like I mean, I'm not going to bitch about Spotify or whatever. It's just that when it comes to Spotify, the quality of certain things can't be heard properly. It's like from vinyl evolving to CDs, CDs to MP3, MP3 to streams and stuff like that. It's like you don't really have that feel of certain things going on. So I guess pretty much works the same way for most of the stuff that's out there. But
Yep.
I'm seriously, I'm just like I said earlier, I'm so intrigued, especially with this particular conversation. I've learned a lot about this so-called engineering part of it, this side of your world, which hopefully for one day I'm just gonna just say, Jenny, I'm gonna pack my bags, put my clothes, sit in the studio, just watch you work, man. I wish one day I could do that someday, not now. But anyway, from engineering and mixing, which is a topic that I think I can go on for another 3 to 4 hours, which I'm not going to. Don't worry about it. Don't panic. Let's get back to your band, Pop Shove It. Something's big's coming up. Big is coming up in November. Two gigs that you will be, or rather, two shows that you will be performing. And before I even get there, somewhere around April, you gave a teaser that you're coming up with a new track for Pop Shove It, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You gave a
Even I
teaser.
can.
So,
I mean, even my memory is not that good, man. I can't remember whether I did that or not.
oh, yes, you did. You gave a
I did.
teaser. I
Okay.
think I think it was somewhere the first or second week you gave a teaser coming out with the track. So I'm just curious: has the track been completed? Is it just going to be a single? Is it going to be like an LP? Or what is it going to be like for Pop Shove It? And what is the track all about? How different it is from your previous music itself? So please enlighten us a little bit. Give us a sneak peek, lah.
Let's see. Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, I can't really give a sneak peek, literally, I can't give a sneak peek, but I can talk a little bit about it. And
Yeah.
it's this is probably going to be the first whatever public platform which anyone's going to hear about it, lah. Like so, hey,
Okay.
exclusive, man,
Thank
exclusive
you.
scoop.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect
So
timing, man.
we actually wrote and recorded a song end of 2020, actually in 2020. So
Oh,
it's
that's a
2
long
years in
time.
the making, and it's already been ready, recorded, mixed, mastered, and it's been sitting there in the on the shelf, right? Not really shelf lah. It's sitting in the oven for more than a year already.
Oh,
And it's always about thinking of when's the right time to put it out, and when we are going to do, when because the thing about current music release strategies nowadays, it's very different from what it used to be, and we can go into that later lah. So basically, we
okay.
were waiting for the right time to put it out, because not only do we don't just want to put the music out, because we've learned, we've tried with several singles in the past, just putting out and see what happens. You have to time it with things like a music video. You have to time it with some shows, and or you have to either do organize your own show or showcase or tour or something like that, in order to push and grab as much attention towards that single, right? That can be the whole music marketing topic, can be a whole other
Yeah.
podcast about it, man. And
Yeah.
I'm not an expert at that, but I know enough, right, to sort of share that with the bands that I work with, lah. But anyway, so this song, the title, right, is called Gila Kuasa,
Oh,
right?
nice.
Right? It's a BM track, right? And it features, right, No Saleh, No from Hujan.
Oh,
Yeah,
Hujan. Okay, okay, okay.
yes. No has been a very, very good friend of ours, a personal friend. We've known him even before the Hujan days.
Nice.
Um, and he recorded and did his and he features on the chorus lah of the song. So
That'd be
right,
nice, man.
so it'll be Pop Shavit featuring No Hujan. We will be putting that out. I think we're debuting it um, at Rock the World, right?
Nice.
Which
It's
is one of
12th
the
of
shows.
November.
Correct. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I'll
not sure
never forget
when
that
this.
day.
Yeah, when are you putting the episode out? When is this out?
Tomorrow.
Oh,
Tomorrow.
we
I do it within 24 to 48 hours. It's
that's
like 12th of November is going to be a very big day. I could consider that as a birthday gift. Watching
yeah,
Pop Shove
it
It live
is.
in action.
Oh well. Oh, awesome, man. You coming? Yeah,
I
you're
hope I
attending.
hope to get I better get the tickets. Hopefully there's still tickets, man.
Yeah, yeah. I
Because
think they're quite affordable. Yeah, yeah.
no, I hopefully there is any more tickets left. Knowing the Rock the World after such a long break, it's like well, the 2 years or 3 years is it? Since
Many
the
many
last one,
years already, because I
many
think
years
they took,
already.
yeah, they took a
Yeah,
long hiatus, right? I think the company went through some
yeah.
personnel changes and all that. Yeah, and this is 20th anniversary for Rock the World.
Wow,
Man, 20th anniversary, man.
couldn't imagine, man.
So
Now I
so
feel damn old, man. I've been there
yeah,
for the first one, and now it's going to be
yeah.
the 20th anniversary.
So
Ah,
we'll premiere the track lah, right? So yeah, it's titled Gila Kuasa, and you can sort of guess what the subject matter is going to be lah, right?
I get the hints, man. I get the hints on
Yeah,
that.
and it was something that we actually wrote in 2020, early 2020. We started writing that song already, right? That's 2 years ago, and of
Still
course,
relevant. Still
still,
relevant.
yeah, still relevant. Yes, on we wrote it as a reaction to obviously what happened in February, that
Yeah,
move,
I
right?
could have.
You know,
I
a,
know.
s- a certain hotel move, yeah, right. So we
We had
wrote that
some
in
people had
response.
Hotel California. We had some
Yeah,
other hotels lah.
yeah. And then, sorry to drag a little bit of politics into the thing, and then, but
Ah,
then when we thought that the administration that took over, when that sort of fell, we thought that alamak, the song not relevant anymore. But actually, but I suppose true. Leopard doesn't change its spots. It may be a different
Yeah.
creature, but they stay
No,
true to
but
their colors lah. So it's still
come to
relevant
think
lah
of it,
now.
is not only here, but it's something that's happening worldwide. So I think
Mm,
if there's a translation of the song or the English version, it'll still be relevant to every single country in the world, man. That's
yep,
exactly
yep,
what's been going on right now.
yep.
But that's
Yeah.
that's music that I am looking forward for. Is that a music video planned out for that? Or is it already, or is it going to be later on of the time, or are you guys already working on that one?
I think we are planning and we're thinking there's no music video yet. We hope to do and put something out as soon as possible, lah. Right?
Cool, cool,
But
man.
we do have a series of shows. Rock the World's not the only one.
KL Big
I
Party on
think
the
there's
5th of November.
KL Big Party, and in fact, this next week we're actually playing Rock On Festival. It's called Rock On Fest. Yeah, at
Okay,
Taylor's. Yeah. Then there's
nice. Actually,
another show at MotoGP, and it's like out of the blue, man. Suddenly we got calls, and it's like four shows every weekend. It's like already booked.
yes,
It's like
that's the spirit, man. That's how it should be. After just hibernating for almost 2 years, thanks to that big mess, finally
yeah,
getting out. But is it?
but
Sorry to interrupt you here. But have you guys performed recently, as in past couple of months back or whatever? Did you all do any
nope.
shows? So how is it going to
Everyone
be like?
Well, you just have to wait and see, like, whether we can, work out all the kinks and all the rust out of all these old joints, you know,
Yeah,
and
I
and
remember I had
and
the
all that.
same conversation with Fuad from Kyoto Protocol. It's like after
Oh
that
yeah,
long
yeah.
break,
I
and
Yep.
suddenly going back on stage, it's like, okay, this doesn't seem to work out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I watched that. And I was like,
Uh,
when I was listening to that, I was like, yes, I feel you exactly. What exactly? Feel that.
oh
Yeah.
man, it is
So
best.
yeah, but we'll see how it goes. We're definitely gonna be we are doing some rehearsals. We're gonna be jamming right before that, and thankfully, I think muscle memory comes back. Hopefully, muscle memory comes into play, lah. Right? Yeah,
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 I'm pretty sure it will because
yeah.
the energy that y'all produce during your performances is phenomenal. So I'm pretty sure all of that will just kick in back into overdrive again. Especially,
Oh,
it's nice, right? Going back in front of a big crowd and just rocking it out. Because
yep.
I mean, for someone like yourself, who's an engineer at the same time or a rocker on the other side, you live two parts of the world. So I think you had that solitude part covered up, already fulfilled that as much as possible. So now it's time to unleash it, which is going to be awesome, man. It's going to be awesome. I guarantee you that, and I'm looking forward for that too.
Yeah, I definitely hope so too. I mean, but I'm just happy that audiences, fans, music lovers in general are able to enjoy live music lah. Everyone
Yeah,
was saying that live music was or live show was going to die out, or was going to die, or everything is going to move to virtual stages and all that. And I think the lesson that we've learned these past 2 years is that no, it hasn't really worked. Doing all
yeah.
these virtual concerts, virtual performances. Nope.
It was nice for a period of time, like,
Yeah.
but at the very same time, as much as people were complaining about it, I would like to look at the big mess as an alternative. If it wasn't for the big mess, we wouldn't have discovered so many things. For example,
True.
hey, your podcast show, this particular podcast show, the stuff that we could learn online, it gave us another platform to unleash the potential of so many other things, and especially for the if you're talking about musician, they also got a chance to discover different talents or different ways of showcasing whatever they had. So it was just kind of nice in a way,
Yep.
So
Yep.
you're prepared for anything in the near future.
Yep. I mean, that's great, lah. It's always good to look at the positive side and always
Yeah,
be cautiously optimistic, but
yeah,
optimistic, and there's always a silver lining. And I'm just glad, that we are sort of emerging out of this 2-year period,
yeah.
hopefully better, hopefully stronger, individually, personally, but overall as a whole industry and a whole scene, lah. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said earlier, one of the best things that I've enjoyed. I mean, I shouldn't say this enjoyed, but the best thing I liked about the thing is the big bass is I've discovered so many great bands, so many new talents that just popped out. People who didn't know how to go out there and showcase their work, finally got a chance to do it on screen. So that's where they started getting more and more. Especially discovered this one
Mm.
teenager. I think you might know him. I don't want to mention names. He did it before SPM, and now he's going to be in college. But he has an awesome tracks that he produced. A young kid, and thanks to all this so-called pandemic, he was brave enough to do that. So good for him, man. Good for him.
Yeah, definitely, man. More power to everyone who's out there. Always turn crisis. I would say lah, right? You know, turn crisis into moments of opportunity lah, right? You always look at it that in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, man. JD, thank you so much for taking up. For taking the time and coming on board the show. I really enjoyed this particular podcast by far. After 50 over episodes, I think this is one of it. I enjoyed it very, very much. I've learned a lot from you. Even though it's only for less for 1 hour or so, but. It's amazing, man. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us and your music. Hey, looking forward for that. That's coming up hopefully in November, right? That's something I'm looking forward for too. Your shows, and if you want to follow JD, I'm going to post every single details. Be sure to check out his podcast, his mixed stream podcast. Okay, one thing also chats he has with so many other great. How do I put it? Personalities. Okay, check that out. It's all available on his YouTube channel, social media. I'm going to put the whole thing on the website so you can check it out for yourselves. JD, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for your being on board, man. It's a great pleasure
Yeah.
finally meeting
Thank
you.
you so Yeah, thank you so much. It's really an honor. I'm feel really humble, and I think you're doing a great thing as well. I really
Thank you.
enjoyed your podcast and all your conversations with all of the different people. And great thing that you're doing, man. So do keep it up. I look forward to many more.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much, dude.